The federal government confirms that some people in the St. Louis area may have a higher risk of getting cancer. A recent health report found some residents who grew up in areas contaminated by radioactive waste decades ago may have increased risk for bone and lung cancers, among other types of the disease. Now, this assessment was conducted by the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. That's a branch of the CDC. Werner is here with this latest update to a story that CBS News has covered since 2015. We're certainly on top of it. Anna, good morning.
Good morning, Gayle. And this situation is not unique to St. Louis because it's connected to America's development of its nuclear weapons program decades ago. The problem is radioactive wastes persist in the soils, and many people believe that's why they or a loved one developed cancer. Now, for the first time, federal health officials agree on the record that's a real possibility.
You'll never forget the moment they tell you we found lesions on your lung and your liver.
That was Mary Osco 3 years ago, as she told us she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2013, despite never touching a cigarette. She's now on the last drug her doctors can offer her to hold her cancer at bay.
I'm not ready to die yet. I have things to contribute to society.
She and her husband Gerard are just two of many residents here who believe their family's cancers were caused by decades-old radioactive contamination. In the 1940s and 50s, St. Louis was key to America's nuclear weapons program. The government hired the Mallinckrodt Chemical Company to process uranium, used to make the atomic bombs dropped in Japan in World War II. The radioactive wastes from that processing were then stored at sites in North County. Tens of thousands of barrels, many stacked and left open to the elements, contaminated the soil in nearby Coldwater Creek. It's the creek that sometimes flooded the park next to the Osco's house.
Now it looks normal.
Right.
But in your minds, this is never going to be normal.
No.
Looks can be deceiving.
No, yeah.
The Army Corps of Engineers has cleaned up 2 major sites and has spent years testing hundreds of properties along Coldwater Creek.
The testing and sampling itself is extremely complicated.
Program manager Bruce Munholland says trucking activities caused some of the contamination.
They did not practice very good techniques as far as hauling. The trucks were uncovered and things were just allowed to proceed sloppily. So all along the haul route, debris would fall off the trucks.
Which means figuring out precise health risks was a challenge for federal scientists like Jill Deichen.
Trying to get a good estimate of what the contamination may have been in the past was one of the tougher questions that we had to deal with.
Despite that, Deichen and her colleagues did find distinct potential risks that for children who grew up near Coldwater Creek or lived in its floodplain for many years in the 1960s to the 1990s, the risk of some cancers may be higher, in particular for bone and lung cancers.
We try to determine if those exposures...
The agency gave its results at community meetings in June. Still, many residents were left with unanswered questions.
If it picks up radioactivity traveling to our homes, have you evaluated that?
But activist Kim Vizentine says the report marks progress.
We would like to see additional areas testing, and that study gave us that opportunity.
Her Facebook group began tracking suspicious cancers in 2012 and has pushed for health studies. For Vizentine, whose 6-year-old son died from a brain tumor 12 years ago, the report gives much-needed confirmation.
For them to acknowledge that it is a possibility is a huge deal.
3 years ago, the Army Corps of Engineers found low-level radiation in the park next to the Osco's home. It's cleaned up now, but they live with the knowledge that their children grew up playing there.
We didn't know that, or we wouldn't have bought this house.
So you feel guilty?
I do.
But you couldn't know.
But if I would have known, I could have done something and left.
Well, some residents, including the Oscos, are suing Mallinckrodt and other companies that handled uranium and radioactive waste. Mallinckrodt told us in a statement that at all times the company worked under the direction of the U.S. government, which has been responsible for and is handling all cleanup efforts on the sites. And at no time did Mallinckrodt own any uranium or its byproducts. Although that work ended in the 1960s, the Army Corps says it could take decades to test for and clean up all of the radioactive waste left behind. They're trying to hunt it all down.
Boy, you feel the pain of Mary Osco. Just the words and the way she said it, Anna, where she said, I'm not ready to die. Just because of where you live through no fault of your own. It seems so unfair.
Right. They're just hoping that there's a federal program that might enable them to get some money, maybe $50,000 a family, which of course, if you have medical bills like
that. It's not what you care about right now.
But this new report means that they could have some progress on getting some of that money, potentially, at least something.
At least
tragic.
Something, yeah. Anna, thank you.